So, greetings, Ville, Herman, and Valo. I know this is the way you have always introduced yourself. How are you?
Most of the times, thank you. Oh, I'm doing fairly well. Thank you for asking. I'm still getting I'm a bit shell shocked after touring a lot last year. It's been quite a few interesting years with the pandemic included. My previous band, him, disbanded in 2017, and I was looking for myself afterwards. I started writing some new music, and then all of a sudden, pandemic hit, and I was locked in my studio. And what I came up with was Neon Noir, my first solo album, and then we got the album out, and we've been touring it. Now on New Year's Eve, we played our last show, and it was the 100. It was 120th show
Wow.
in 1 year. So for me, it's a lot. I've never toured that much in a year, and there's about 30 to go, and that's how we're gonna make our way to Riga
Yeah.
in I think in a couple of months. Or
Yeah.
it's not too far off. So
Oh.
it's been interesting, but it's been very busy. So now I'm having a little time off to see the dentist and do my laundry and stuff. So it feels amazing how much has happened especially in the last year, and I'm very positively surprised. There's been so many people still into this kind of music I make, and having the opportunity of traveling the world.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, we'll get to everything you just said.
Sure.
I think, like, before my first question, I wanted to tell you a little story. So this was years back, I think 15, maybe more. I was still in elementary school. So I remember this one day I got home after school, just doing some homework, minding my own business, and there was this radio playing in the background. And I remember that at that time, it was like one of the biggest mainstream radio stations, which means that all the newest pop songs, dance hits, whatnot were playing. And the thing with music, it's kind of hard to express it in words, but when you hear it, you just know that there is something it. So all
All
of a
right.
sudden, there is this song that comes up, and it's kind of dark and sophisticated, and just like there's this amazing vocalist that's singing and everything. And bear in mind, people, at that time, there was no such thing as Shazam, where you can take your phone and like find the song in like seconds. I had to be patient till the next time it comes up, or just watch TV or whatever. So eventually I found out that the song is played by a Finnish band called Him, and the song is The Kiss of Dawn. So
Oh,
I became a fan at those times, and I think I got everything, everything that had a heartogram on it. I was like, I had to get it. I started skateboarding, like, come on, like I did everything. I wanted to make a tattoo. My mom didn't let me do that, but we kind of started talking. We kind of started talking with her, and she said like, oh yeah, I heard them. Yeah, I really loved Join Me and all the Wicked game cover and whatnot. So this intro was just my way of saying thank you for these amazing memories, and thank you for your music. And
no.
this brings finally to my first question. How do you feel knowing that your music has had a lasting impact on fans all around the world?
Well, thank you for the lovely trip down memory lane. Um, it's pretty special. Music matters that much to me too. I love the bands I fall in love with, and I have all the albums and T-shirts and whatnot. And it feels like I'm a sort of spectator because it feels I'm not the instigator of it. Because a lot of times when you make the music is just one part of the lifestyle that happens around a band. At the end of the day, the people who listen to the music, the fans, aka the fanatics, they make it all go around, and they create the tension and the sort of the want and the need for that artist. So it's like a snowball effect. I created snowball. I threw it. I knew in which direction I threw it, but I didn't know what's going to happen with it. And then it started doing its own thing and getting bigger and bigger by the day. And especially now that have disbanded, and I have this new thing happening, it feels really exhilarating to see many people from many generations. At the end of the day, There's some people who were following him in the mid-90s, who were then a bit older. So we have people in between of, let's say, 18 or 17 and 67 coming to the shows, and I think that's pretty special. And that there's that music can resonate with throughout times and to all sorts of people. That's something that I can't, we all can hope for, but it's not something we can do this and it happens. Yeah. So I'm awestruck, and I'm shocked at times in a very positive way about everything that's been going on. And I'm glad that that there really is there are people who are interested in what I do, and that there's a chance to play the music and see people smiling, and also that there are different people with different favorite songs. Like, like The Kiss of Dawn might resonate with somebody a lot, and something completely different might. And on this last tour, there's been a lot of people who are not so much fans of the hymn stuff, but they really got into the new stuff. So that's been interesting too. And of course, as a singer and a songwriter, it's nice that I'm not just a jukebox playing, golden oldies or olden goldies, however we all want to put it. So it's nice that there's the past and the present and the future and everything between.
I couldn't have said it better than you. It always fascinates me. You're so articulate and so, like, I think people will enjoy this interview by just listening to how you talk. So I know that hymn has been like a really big part of your life, and I hope you don't mind. I just have like a few questions about it. You already mentioned that you played your last show in 2017. For fans, it was probably a very sad day, but how was it for you?
Let's say we'd been preparing for the funeral for quite a long time. So we've been working on music, and the music didn't sound as good as we hoped it would. And then we, little by little, started thinking about that maybe the band had seen its glory days, and there would be a reason to call it a day. And I think the cool thing about that was that we didn't wait for the relationships in the band to become so. What you hear and what you read in papers, bands usually they start fighting and they sue each other, and it becomes a big, a poop show. And so I'm glad that we were able, as friends, to make the call that maybe the spark isn't there anymore. That let's give it a last little hurrah and do the last world tour. And that tour was one of the best ones we've ever did, because we knew that it's going to end. So that made it very bittersweet, and I think in a very positive way. And after the last show was done, I went home, and I think I had a microwave pizza and went to bed. It was I thought it would be more like a world-ending moment, as him had been such a big part of my life. But I woke up the next day feeling exactly like the same guy, and the same silly ideas and so forth. It was just there was one, I wasn't wearing the albatross around my neck. There was one, one ball and chain was missing. So I think it was good timing, and I think we did it with some sort of dignity and at the right time. And all things must come to an end, and it's easier said than done. So that's one of the best things we ever did with the band, was to call it a day after a reasonable amount of time being together. It just wasn't the right time for us, and the stars weren't aligned. And it remains to be seen if it happens so in the future. If one day we will play together, I don't know. I've been in touch with Miguel, the bass player, quite a bit, and then Anto, who used to play keyboards in him during the very first album. They're very close friends of mine, so we always jokingly talk about it a bit. But it's you need a good reason. Exactly. You need a good reason to do a thing like that. It can't be just for the past glories. There has to be, whatever it might be, but some sort of angle or some sort of weird new perspective. And at this moment in time, I really appreciate doing what I do with the solo stuff, because it has enabled me to get more intimate with music than ever, as there's nobody telling me what to do. I feel like, you know, musically speaking, I feel like everybody feels when they're moving out from their parents for the first time,
Yeah.
like that first night
Yeah.
to sleep in your first rented apartment or whatever. You just feel free, and that's a similar sort of thing I felt with creating Neo Noir, because I was able to spend as much time on as little tiny minute silly details as I wanted to, and that made that playground a very fertile one. It was great for me personally, and and I think whatever you do, you're trying to make it exciting and find new ways, new perspectives, and new angles
Of course.
looking at it. You know, because you know, repetition is a real mood killer, and yeah, it makes you old before your time.
Yeah. So after the microwaved pizza, how long did it take you to get back to the studio and till you actually came up with the idea that you want to make a solo album?
It was a big pizza, so it took a while. But no, there was a band, or there is a band called The Agents in Finland, and they play this sort of very traditional 50s, 60s influence, very vintagey pop music. Um, sort of like more vintagey than Amy Winehouse back in the day. And we recorded a sort of like a special album together. I had sung with them back in the mid '90s, and people had loved it. So it was really traditional type of Roy Orbison type of music, and I thought that musically speaking, it was a great thing to do because it was a true 180 from the hymn days. It was something very different, and as I still think that it's very important to keep yourself on your toes and do stuff that doesn't make you feel too comfortable.
Yeah.
So I think it was very needed for myself to do, musically speaking, something very different, but yet it turned out to be very successful. And then that gave me enough time also to sort of like let my brain rest or let my songwriting muscles rest for a while, because ending with him was a big deal for me. So I wasn't sure whether I would have music in me, whether I had songs that I could consider good enough for public consumption, and so I wanted to stay active in music, but I wanted to give it a little songwriting vacation on myself. I wasn't writing music when I was working with the agents. I was just doing the old classic Finnish stuff, and then bit by bit in 2019, I think I started working on the new stuff and released the 3 songs. Salute the Sanguine, Satsanai, Satanalia, and Runaway from the Sun as an EP. And I think it was April 2020, on the same week when the lockdown started, at least here in Helsinki. And as we all know, nobody really knew what the heck is going on. So it was a wild time, and my way out of it was to work on music, because it was quite scary, and not see my parents, and you know, the first Christmas ever, you know, just it was weird.
It was
but now
yeah.
And it was, I think a lot of people are still struggling with it, and it left you know, it left big marks and big stains and big signs on us, and it's a weird time, definitely. But you know, it wasn't bad for us artists necessarily. You know, we weren't able to perform publicly, but it made sort of like introspection the name of the game, you know, for quite a long time, because that was the only thing we could really do. So I'm trying to find positive in the negative, because of course there's you know, no pandemic is a positive thing. So
exactly.
it was it was quite a struggle, but the cool thing about it was that we struggled together. You know.
Yeah, that was, we were apart, but in some way we were all in this together.
Yeah.
Speaking of pandemic, right now when we're kind of all getting back to our lives and everything, is there anything you miss from that time?
I think the cool thing about the pandemic was that because everybody slowed down a bit, a lot of people's social lives slowed down a bit too, which a lot of people who, for example, went out every week, like 2 times for a dinner or whatever, all of a sudden realized that they could cook for themselves. And it kind of like, it resets the social life a bit. So I think a lot of that stuff is a lot more peaceful now. It's not so hectic as it was before the pandemic. And and people are also allowed their own solitude and their own private space. And people are not thinking that you're weird if you want to be by yourself and do your own things or whatever. Not as much as they did before. So I think that's a big thing. The same with talking with taxi drivers and stuff, because they've been suffering because there's not so many people going out, even though now we're out the pandemic. But it's a lot of the stuff, and through that it means that a lot of restaurants are suffering. So it affects everything, and it's a big challenge, and it's a challenge that lasts for years and years to come. And hopefully we'll be better prepared for the next one whenever it might happen. So but yeah, I think we won't be out of it in many years. And but there's not really anything I would miss from the time, because that's basically what I do anyway. I'm just by myself writing music. There was my girlfriend. She sent me a picture she found somewhere, like a little cartoon of an artist painting there's an easel and a painting, and the artist paints, and there's like the text reads on the first picture. All the pictures are exactly the same, and the first one is like an artist pre-pandemic, artist during lockdowns, an artist during pandemic, and after pandemic, and it's all the same. So it's never really changed that much.
Yeah.
And we like to keep our distance.
So Neon Noir, your debut solo album, we already talked a little bit about it, but what I think personally is the most interesting thing, and I don't think that this is stressed out enough, you did all the instruments by yourself. You were playing everything. Everything we can hear in the album is made by you. Can you tell us what was the easiest part of the process and what was the hardest part of it?
Yes, I think I mistook the name solo album. I took it a bit too literally, but yeah, I think it was a challenge. The whole thing was that I was crazy enough. I thought that, what the heck, I'll try. The idea was that I wrote a couple of ideas for songs, and then I didn't have a band, so I thought that I'd demo the songs by myself. I'd record them and see how they sounded. Then all of a sudden they started sounding pretty good. Runaway from the Sun was the first one I worked on. And so in that sense, that song is very important to me. It's like it opened the floodgates, showed me that there's the possibility of doing music new music in general, and then also music by myself. But I took it as a challenge. I took it as like come hell or high water. I'm going to push through and break on through to the other side. And because challenge, it's important. And I like to paint myself in a corner. It's not necessarily the wisest thing to do, but under pressure, people do tend to, they tend to find a new reasons and new, because you're forced to. If things are, it's like I've never known an artist or a creative person who would work great with no deadlines.
Yeah.
So you need a bit of pressure, you need a bit of framework and stuff to work in. So that was mine. And also then the pandemic forced me to work by myself more, because you weren't able to meet anybody. So there was really no opportunity. So it just, that's kind of the good thing about the pandemic for me. It forced me to do maybe things I wouldn't have done otherwise, through which I found more about myself, and found new avenues of being creative, and new opportunities, and new aspects maybe about myself. So in that sense, it was a very enlightening experience. But I still, I think one pandemic in a lifetime is more than enough.
Exactly. So we will see you in April here in Riga. You've been here a few times. Do you have any special memories from Latvia, or maybe you even have some special places where you've been or you like?
It's unfortunately, I know a couple of people, Latvian people, I've been in contact during the years, but I've never went on tour. A lot of times, people think that you actually get to see the cities you are in or the countries you are in, but a lot of times you don't, especially being a singer. It's because when I was younger, I would always go out after the gigs, with be all rock and roll, and so it was dark, and bars everywhere are pretty much the same. So you don't really get to see anything. You get to chat with some locals and have a great night out, and then you sleep in the next day, and that's it, and then you're off to the next place. And then these days I don't don't go out after the gigs. It's I rest my voice. I try to take it as easy as possible because that's the way. We haven't had any cancellations, and there's been 120 shows last year. So, at the end of the day, that is the thing that I do. I'm a musician. I try to sing as well. So it's important to try to give that to the people as opposed to sightseeing.
Yeah.
I'm always a bit wary about it. You know, if there's a day off, then possibly there's a. But I'm quite lazy regarding sightseeing and going out. If there's a local friend, I like to go to restaurants, just eat something, but even more, I like a conversation and just talking and walking around. And I think that's special. And a lot of times with the locals, so you get to see the culture and the place through the sort of like the back door. With the band, you always do that, so you don't get to know a place through the lens of being a tourist.
Mm-hmm.
So, but no, we've been there. I think a couple of times, 2 or 3 times in the past with him, and the first time being really way back, probably in the year 2000 or something.
Mm-hmm.
It was a long time ago. But yeah, I remember the renovations they did in the city of Riga, because that's changed quite a bit, hasn't it? Like during the past, but God, that's been like 25 years.
Don't say it loud.
So,
but yeah.
No, but just saying that a lot of places do tend to change. But I remember it becoming more like well tended and more gardeny. There was a lot of like that sort of stuff. But that was a long time ago too. So it might be that's totally different now. It's all like AI and robots.
No AIs, no robots. Still the same old churches and everything. But I think it's. I mean, I'm a patriot of my city, so I really like it, and I hope you will like it too. I heard that there are people who actually travel to Helsinki to visit one place that reminds them of you. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Well, it's weird if it reminds me of myself, but yeah, maybe if you're talking about my dad's shop in Helsinki, it's been a weird mecca for a lot of people, not only for the hymn people. It's a lot of people who visit Finland and love music, and especially harder rock music. They visit that shop. It's become emblematic, and my dad's still there every day, and he's happy meeting people from all around the world. And he's kind of he always calls me up like, now there's people from Bolivia, you should go there. And he's like my spiritual advisor when it comes to all that stuff. Yeah, it's still there, and I used to work there a little, helping my dad out back in the day as well. But it's a small little shop with all sorts of adult-oriented things, and even it's called the adult toy shop if you translate the name.
Yeah.
So it is a toy shop, but definitely for adults.
And a tourism spot for adults also, maybe.
Indeed. Yeah, indeed, Joy. Yeah, that's exactly right. But yeah, my dad's enjoying it. It's been fun because it's become a tradition for a lot of people. Also, a lot of people who've traveled to Finland many times. They go there each and every time, and it's we thank you for the support.
How is business these days?
Indeed.
No. So I've been in Helsinki a few times myself. Didn't visit any adult toy shops though. But what fascinates me the most about Scandinavia, and I can't find the answer. How come so many great musicians come from this place? And you can name, I don't know, starting from ABBA. Like nowadays, there are so many great musicians. What would you say is the X factor behind the Scandinavian music success?
Well, I was probably 25 before I learned that Finland is not a part of Scandinavia. Mm-hmm. So we're near to those countries. So Sweden, Norway, Denmark. I'm not sure if Iceland is part of it. But that's that's how bad I am. I dropped out of school before I even learned that. I guess it's Fenno-Scandinavia is the term. So we're more as Finland. We're more together with you in the Baltics.
Okay.
So we're one people, and the other ones they can sort of, But nah.
It's weird, right? It shouldn't be like that.
Musician-wise, I always thought that it's probably the perseverance. It's like us Finns, we don't give up. That's a positive thing and a negative thing, I think, at the same time, because it can make us really infuriating because we're just not willing to let go. And we're like, no matter come hell or high water, we're still going for it, and we'll show everybody and whatnot. And the other thing, I always thought originally that why all the metal bands came from Scandinavia and from Finland and northern places in the world is due to the cold. So you have to play really fast because that would keep you warm. So
that's a good explanation. I'll take it.
well, it sounds good. It sounds good. Not sure how far it is from the truth, but there's an element to that, I'm sure. That's the same thing with burned churches. It didn't have anything to do with religion. It's just they were incredibly cold. They had to keep themselves warm one way or the other.
Everyone finds their own way, I guess. You started your tour last year, and despite the fact that you did the album all by yourself, you do have some members who play with you on stage.
Yes.
Can you tell us what is the difference between traveling with him and now with these new guys? I mean, it's like, is it still like, I don't know, like a honeymoon phase or something?
Talking in those terms, it's like, well, good that you mentioned honeymoon. It's like comparing girlfriends or boyfriends or any relationship. So that's a thing nobody should ever do. That should be banned in law. The cool thing about the band I'm touring with now is the fact that we were not trying to put together him number two or the guys in him I love to death, and they have, musically speaking, they have their own strengths. And we came from more of the metal side of music, and with the new lads, I was hoping to play maybe a bit more with guys with more alternative rock / indie music sensibilities, because there's a bit more of that in neo noir as well. And I thought that I would learn from them, which I have. So that's been incredibly cool and great. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same. Everybody's, smelly socks are smelly, and in a tour bus, you're very in close quarters, and you have to find your own space to be able to take it all. And it's always a challenge, but at the end of the day, it's a positive challenge.
There is one thing missing, though, on stage, and I have to warn: smoking kills. And you quit a while ago, but for me, honestly, it's really hard to imagine you being on stage without a cigarette in your hands. Was it part of your image, or did it actually really help you with the vocal cords, since you do have very deep low voice?
That's about it's. I think originally why I started, smoking on stage, and then I also usually had a bottle of red wine in the other hand. Was due to I was nervous. I was a bass player and a drummer and a little bit of a guitar player before, so I used to be on stage with something in my hand. So all of a sudden, I just felt very naked, and then I thought it looked cool. I still, I grew up with Humphrey Bogart and Jimmy Dean pictures on my parents' walls and stuff. So I love that old school American film noir, that glitz and glamour sort of era, and cigarettes, that was a big part of it. But yeah, then at some point, same with alcohol. I just realized that it's not doing me any good anymore. It's it started to wear me out, and I'm asthmatic as well. I have asthma, so the cigarette smoking didn't help with that, and I still love cigarettes, but I've just decided not to smoke. I never say never. I just say that I'm having a break. Because if you say that you're going to quit something, that makes you usually think about the stuff you're quitting way too much. You start to become obsessed with it. It's like, I'm not going to eat chocolate ever. And then every time you're in a store and there's a few chocolate bars, you're going to look like a raving lunatic looking at them. So I'm just taking a little break from all that bad stuff. But yeah, it does. But same as whiskey, it helps with the voice in the studio, especially. You become a bit more like that.
Oh my gosh!
But you learn it along the way as well. And then I like the fact that you can sing pristine as well, and you're not. I think the silliest thing with cigarettes, for example, is that you're not allowed to smoke anywhere these days. So it's torture 24/7, especially when you're traveling. So there's no hotels where you can smoke. There's no airports, a few airports where you can smoke, but very limited spaces, and it became absolutely a nightmare.
Yeah.
And I was vaping for a wee bit, but then I thought that was silly, and then I just quit cold turkey. So, but yeah, it's I smoked about 4 packs a day for 20 years. So I think that's enough.
That's enough. Yeah.
That's enough for one person. Yeah.
We are very much looking forward to see you here in Riga. What are you looking forward in 2024?
Well, likewise, I'm hoping that everybody stays healthy. There's still a few months to go, about 30 shows to go. And then it'll be interesting because then for 1 second I'm going to be done with the past and I'm just going to look into the future and see if there's new melodies and new rhymes and reasons floating about, and starting to create, trying to create some new music. It's I just go with the flow, one day at a time, sort of ideology, especially with touring, because if you start thinking about the amount of shows and all that, it easily you become overwhelmed by the amount. You're like, oh my God. And it's easy just to live in the present and concentrate on what you can do now. And so my today's mission will be to take a bath and read a book. So, and that's important. That's my way of recharging the batteries before the tour and being in good tip-top shape for you people in Riga. So hopefully nobody will be disappointed and all that, and that will enable us to come over again with with some new music in the future. Nobody knows when, but hopefully one day.
Hopefully one day. Ville, thank you so much for your time. I really, really enjoyed talking to you, and I really hope that I will see you in person as well. So read your book, take care, and see you in spring.
See you in a few months. Take it easy.